the Masterminds webinar this month, which is brought to you by Success Alchemist Business Coaching Company. We are in the business of helping, guiding, and supporting MSMEs and aggressive, growth-oriented founders and startups, helping them to grow exponentially, faster than the market, revenues faster than their industry related businesses, and profitability 3 times higher. And how does it happen? It's because of the scaling up framework that is implemented in these organizations. By the way, scaling up is a framework designed, created, and successfully implemented in over 100,000, 120,000 companies all over the world by Vern Harnish and his associate coaches all over the world. There are very few of them, and the founder of Success Alchemist Business Coaching Company, Ajay Hiraskar, is one of those 250 certified coaches all over the world. Today, Success Alchemist has helped in last 8 years multiple companies grow exponentially, become far more profitable in as well as in their cash flow management. There has been a massive change because of implementation of the scaling up framework. Ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to know a little more about the scaling up framework and Success Alchemist, do check out on our website. You will get a lot of information there, and we are available here to help you with anything else that you are not able to find there. Masterminds webinar is one of the few initiatives that Success Alchemists brings for our customers, for the potential knowledge seekers, for people who wish to know a little more in detail, because every time at Masterminds webinar, we have experts. We have people who have been there, done that. They share their expert knowledge with the audience, and it is just for the benefit of people who would like to listen, check out the sanity of this, and also implement in their businesses. Today, we have one such wonderful gentleman on our Masterminds webinar, Rajiv Krishnan Prisharoti. Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you for joining us today, taking your time out. It's been wonderful interacting before this for this webinar purpose. Rajiv comes with a very rich experience of over 2 decades. He has worked with plenty of good landmark companies in India. For example, he's worked with Godrej and Boyce, National Institute of Sales, NIS, and he's also worked with Rallis India. And later on, I guess the entrepreneur bug with him. And so he started this company, Growmore Consulting. He is a leading HR consultant into training, leadership training particularly, has trained over 5,000 leaders across industries in India and in Dubai. He's also an author of a very good book to refer to, The Journaling Gym. I'm sure Rajiv will throw a light on this book also during the webinar. Today, we have decided to pick up something that is very important and crucial for any business. As you would have seen, the title of this webinar, Scaling with Intention, Hire Right, Lead Wise, Listen Deep. Our webinar today will consider these important aspects of leadership, and it would help you to understand why hiring right is so important to help your organizations grow. Thank you. Let's dive straight into our webinar, Masterminds webinar, Rajiv. Thank you once again for coming, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen. But just an announcement, please. For the guest, Rajiv. Ladies and gentlemen, let's begin this now. Something that I have been looking forward to for last 1 week, the Masterminds webinar on scaling with intention. Thank you very much once again. Thank you, Rajiv, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Rajiv, the first question that I want to do as an icebreaker is to ask you about your experience in corporate and then jumping the wagon into entrepreneurship. Tell us the reason why you switched over, what's been your passion, and how all this happened, Rajiv.
Oh, thank you so much. First of all, it's a pleasure being here. What a honor. I would say this much. Uh, Actually, if I have to, I have been asked this question a few times in the past also, in fact, quite often, especially when I do either a webinar or a training program. So if I have to start with a headlines first approach, I would say the deep desire to create an impact outside one's organization. So that led me to move from a corporate role into a consultant role. I also carry a certain background of both, and that made my choice a little easier because from mid 90s to mid 2005, I would say from mid 90s to 2005, I was working for a training and consulting company, which was called as NIS Sparta Limited, which was a part of NIIT group of companies. And this company was the first company to start a soft skills training. They started off as a soft skills training company. So while being here, I could get exposure to having done training and consulting for many, many companies. PricewaterhouseCoopers on one hand, for example, to a Bajaj Auto on the other hand, to a Maruti Suzuki on the other hand, and various types of assignment. So that was how I first got into training consulting role. So right from training people on behavioral training to selling skills training to negotiation skills training to employee engagement and process consulting, it all happened over there. Now, after this journey, and it was a wonderful journey, I happened to join a company which was called which is still there. It's called Rallis India Limited. And I happened to join them in their HR team. So now the focus shifted from a consulting role into what we call as, creating an impact within the organization. Okay, so earlier it was creating an impact in multiple organizations. Now the change was creating an impact to one organization. So that was the first change. And this was the time when I could also experience the power of an authority, because a lot of things I could get done in Rallis because of the power, certain power which I had over there. So it went on here also. And then subsequently, I found that I had a liking for my previous role, and that was to create impact for multiple organizations, because the job by nature is very rich in content.
Yes.
Okay, because you get to interact, you get to deal with multiple organizations and understand what they do, the challenges that they face. So this was alluring, I would say, or a main attraction which forced me to come back into such a role. So that's how the change happened. Now, if I look back at it, there's a wonderful learning which I had during the whole process. So the learning is to influence without an authority or without a formal authority is a skill by itself.
Absolutely.
Okay, when you work for a company, you benefit of having a certain authority due to your position in the company, due to the role that you do. But when you now are a consultant, you still need to influence people, but without authority. And that is a different skill set altogether. And this is where factors like, I would say, credibility matters. Okay, there are certain behaviors which one needs to bring to table to, which helps in this field. For example, of deep listening, active listening, the ability to ask the right set of questions to the right set of people. Okay, to create a solution which is acceptable to all. And mind you, without a formal authority.
Yeah, I agree.
So this is the difference between working in a corporate, as far as I am concerned, to playing a consultant role. So that's how the change happened, and that's the learning.
You've gone by the call that was made to you, and I really like this line, influence without authority, and I can
Yes,
imagine how challenging it would have been. And to
yes,
reach in this position, I'm sure you have been pretty successful in making that really happen in your environment. That's wonderful.
absolutely. Yes.
Congratulations for
Thank
making
you.
this
Thank you
forward.
so much. Yes, yes,
Let's
yes,
go into the important part that I wanted to always have. I had this always in mind, and I
yes,
always wondered what is the right approach to this. It is about competency-based hiring.
yes,
How
yes,
organizations, now this has
yes,
become very important. Are we
yes,
focusing on competencies? And we also have to see the cultural fit. That
yes.
becomes a very big challenge. And I'm sure in your journey, as I understood you have addressed this, please tell us a little more in detail as to how we can do this both
Oh,
effectively.
surely, surely. And I would like to share a personal example here, so that it becomes little clear. So
Yes,
a
that would be
few
very
years
nice.
ago, I was working on an assignment with a research-based organization. Now, this company typically what it does is it analyzes the patents, which are a public document. It analyzes those patents and it offers its insights to its clients. What are those
Okay.
insights? For example, if they have a competitor and if the competitor is filing a certain set of patents. So through a certain analysis, one can find out as to what, to some extent, I would say, what is that company thinking about? For example, if the company is filing a lot of patents on, say, electric vehicles,
Yeah.
so then, certain inferences can be drawn and that can be offered to their clients. That means
Yeah.
this research company's clients. So we were hiring for the position of a team lead over there.
Okay.
Now, one of the competency which was required, or one of the characteristic or a trait in a candidate, if I can use a very simplistic term,
Yeah.
required in a candidate for this role was, we all knew that he is never going to have the complete set of information. He will only have a half set of information.
Yeah.
So the ability to deal with ambiguity was a very important characteristic for
Oh, yes.
the success of this role. Now, the problem is that it is also a behavioral competency. For example,
Yeah.
if someone asks me, are you comfortable dealing with ambiguity? I mean, why would I say no, I'm not comfortable? Okay.
Absolutely.
So it becomes that much difficult to check also in an interview
Correct.
where you get
How do you
maximum.
verify this?
Yes, how do you verify this? You get maximum 45 minutes to
Mhm.
1 hour in an interview. And there are other questions also which you ask. So this was the situation wherein we applied, or in these situations, I would say, in this
Yeah.
particular case, this was the situation where we applied this. So what is this all about?
Yeah.
So it's about something like this, that instead of asking futuristic questions to a candidate, like for
Yeah.
example, in this role, you will have to deal with ambiguity. Are you prepared to take such roles, etc.? These are futuristic questions. So the assumption here is that you take him back. You ask a question like, have you done this in the past?
Oh, wow. Absolutely fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
Now, why are we
Hmm.
doing it? Because if he has done it in the past, he is likely to repeat it in the new role.
Yeah.
So for behavioral competencies, like for example, in this case, it was dealing with ambiguity. In certain other cases, it could be working in cross-functional teams.
Correct.
Certain other cases, it could be maybe working against very strict deadlines. So,
Yeah.
where it becomes difficult to assess, we found that the competency based interviewing technique came
Yeah.
came of great help. And the method
Absolutely.
is
Hmm.
something like this. You ask him, when was the last time you displayed this
Hmm.
particular
Hmm.
competency? So
Hmm.
these were some of the questions These are some of the questions which can be asked.
Yeah.
Then make him talk about it. Okay, so now we know what is going to happen. We have experience in this particular role. So as he is talking, it gives us an idea as to whether similar situations happen in this role also or not. So this gives a better picture, I would say, in terms of if he take him for this role, can he handle that?
Yeah.
So one of the questions we asked was
Competently.
this: okay, when was the last time you displayed this? Second, what makes you think that this was a situation wherein you had to deal with ambiguity?
Ambiguity.
Okay, so what makes you say it is like that? Then we started asking questions around, what was that situation? Please talk us. This is very interesting. Can you talk
Go
through?
deeper.
Go deeper,
Yeah.
absolutely. So if you can visualize a funnel, okay, so you bring him on top of the funnel by asking this particular question: when was the last time you displayed this particular trait? If you don't want to use the word competency because it is a little bit HR related, when was the last time you displayed this particular quality, this particular trait? Okay, bring him on top of it. Okay, then can you talk through what happened actually? How did you go about doing it? So bring him a little down. Who were some of the people with whom you would interact at that time? Can you recall some conversations? Okay, now why are we doing this? Because unless a person has done it, it is little difficult for him to create that situation and to create that situation and to narrate. And if someone is able to still do it, you anyway select him because he's a genius. Okay.
You cannot make it up.
You
cannot
make
make
it.
it up.
It's difficult.
Truly.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
Okay. And then finally, what happened? Can you recall a conversation? So what did you tell that person? What did that person tell you, for example? Okay.
Yeah.
So all these things are a little difficult to quickly make up and tell. And then at the end of it, what happened? And then finally, what was the learning for you from this experience?
So good. So you complete the whole circle.
You complete the whole circle. And because you are in an interview, to that extent, you have the leeway, I would say, to ask these kind of questions. Okay.
I agree.
And I have seen, for example, in many interviews, openly telling them, look, this is one of the characteristics we required in this job. So we will ask you questions around this.
Okay.
So a few things to keep in mind is make notes about what the person is saying. I've seen many people, many a times people not making notes.
Correct.
This is very, very important. So write down what he has said. At certain point, you will refer to the notes. You will say it back to him. Later on for reference, you can use it.
Second level, third level,
Absolutely, absolutely. And sometimes
when you say this, it is so relatable with our scaling up framework.
Yes.
We also have something called it's hiring based model called top grading.
Yes.
And top grading, scaling up framework implements top grading in a very detailed manner. There is a science behind this in hiring people, and it resonates with me all so much that you have just mentioned about deep diving into your particular requirement and getting the facts out for you to convince, and then connecting with people as well who has been there in his journey. So this relates to me so, and this you said you noted down also.
Yes.
Now, noting down takes place where? Do you make a job scorecard where all the criteria is required, written, mentioned in detail? Tell us something about
Surely.
this.
So, I would normally note down on a separate notepad because I prefer writing as much details about what the candidate is saying. So, for example, I've seen people writing on the back side of their resume, of that candidate's resume. Now, it's okay as long as you are, I'm not sitting here and preaching, do this or don't do that. But I find it more difficult to use a notepad because then I get the benefit of writing as much as I want. And I would want to capture maximum information about the person with whom I'm having a conversation. I'm not doing an interview there. I'm interested in this person, what this person has to
Absolutely.
say. So I will note down and note down and note down. And often I would tell that person that, look, I'll be writing down what you say. Please pardon me if I'm not able to make an eye contact with you. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, yes. I say that. Okay. And
Okay.
and it goes. There's no problem. I've never seen a person objecting, a candidate objecting that why you're not making a eye contact. It has never happened, and I don't think it'll ever happen also. It looks to that extent a little funny, right?
Yeah.
So I prefer that writing on a
Mm,
notepad, because then I can write down a lot of things about this
mm,
person.
mm,
I can refer to it. I can underline certain things. I don't expect it to
mm,
be too neat and clean. It could be fairly messy, but I
mm.
am writing down the thing. And then at the end of the day, I pick up certain things and attach it to the back of his resume.
Yeah.
So, or the CV, so that I can refer to it again and I can justify why I found this candidate more
Suitable
suitable.
and yeah, sure.
Absolutely. So, yes, absolutely. So, I do that also.
Very nice.
Yes,
Excellent. I think this has made a lot of things very clear about
yes.
mapping and also
I'll
job
just add
search.
one
Sure,
more
sure. Please
line.
go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, because see, when we say competency, so competency means knowledge, skill, and behaviors for that, which is required for that role. Now, knowledge and skill can be tested. For example, you can give him a simple test to check his
Yeah.
knowledge. You can make him do, for example, suppose a role play, or you can make him talk to check his skill, for example.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
the behavior part is very tricky. How do we get into the behavior
Determine.
part?
Mm,
That is where I
mm.
found competency based interviewing technique a very
Yeah.
powerful method. The idea is, see if he has done it in the past. If he has done it, when? Was it in too distant past or roundabout
Yeah,
now? I'll
sure.
prefer roundabout now, for example.
Recent. Absolutely agree. Mm.
Okay. And
Mm.
then how has he done
Very
it? How
good
did
point.
he go about? Okay. And then I keep
Mm.
checking myself. Look, what this person is saying is a scenario which happens in this role also. So it gives me a better
Mm.
idea about fit.
Suitability and fit. Yeah.
Suitability.
Role fit. Yeah, yeah, for
Exactly. So
sure.
don't ask
That,
futuristic questions. Are you willing to do this? Check,
yeah.
have you done it in the past for the
In the
behavioral
recent
part
past.
of competency?
It's so
Thanks
important.
for
Very
the
nice.
time.
Yeah, yeah,
Thanks for the
excellent.
time.
Yeah,
Okay.
lovely, very nice. That required a bit of explanation for our better understanding, Rajiv.
Yes.
Thank you very much
Yes.
for explaining this with an example. I really
Yes.
like the way you go back into the candidate's understanding of
Yes.
ambiguity and
Yes.
then ask. And similarly, it can be done for any other competency that you might require.
Yes. Yes.
Let's go to the second part of this where we
Yes.
were talking about the business model excellence. And you
Yes.
you have an expertise in implementing business
Yes.
model
Yes.
excellence, like
Yes.
scaling up is a business model
Yes.
excellence.
Yes.
What is? Can you please throw some
Surely.
light
Surely.
on this
Yes.
to
Yes.
us?
Yes. See, I would start with a very simple example so that it becomes clear.
Okay.
Okay. Suppose I am the owner of a restaurant and there
Hmm.
is another restaurant which is opposite to mine.
Okay.
Okay, just to begin with. And then so through a simple analogy or an example, I would like to clarify what this topic is all about. Now, my focus on my business, which is a restaurant business, over a period of time, I have realized that look, the taste of the food that I serve in my restaurant matters a lot because customers want good, tasty food, and that's why they come. So I do lot of work around creating tasty food because that's my focus. On the other hand, the person who has got a restaurant opposite to mine has got a little different way of looking at things. No doubt he is focused on creating tasty foods. He is also he is also equally according to him it's equally important, for example, that the hygiene standards in that restaurant is good.
Yeah.
The the behavior which the server depicts or displays with the customers is equally important. So he is looking at it from a slightly more angle. My focus is tasty food. His focus is not just tasty food, it's about hygiene in the restaurant, for example. It's about the behavior with the server displays, for example. His focus is also on, for example, catering to out of restaurant customers, for example. So,
Yeah.
in many ways, he is looking at his business from a little different angle than mine. So, now, if we are to ask ourselves this question, who is likely to succeed more? Likely, we don't know the facts and
Okay.
figures,
Yeah. Yeah.
likely to
Yeah.
succeed. I guess, our gut would tell us that the person who is looking at three, four aspects about the business, not just the taste,
Sure.
also the hygiene, also the behavior, also the
Agree.
out of restaurant customers, is
Hmm.
likely to be more successful in this business, right? We can fairly
Agree.
assume. Am I right?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Perfect.
Now, the business excellence model that we are talking about is in many ways similar to this. This model forces us to look at a business through multiple channels or multiple angles. And that is
Mm-hmm.
why in a scaling up operation, this plays a very, very important role. So what are
Okay.
those angles that this business models encourages us to look at? For
Okay.
example, leadership. Is the leadership setting right direction? Is it inspiring? It forces us to think and ask these questions to our own business. Second is
Leadership. Hmm.
leadership. Yes.
Okay.
Is the leadership setting the right direction? Is it
Hmm.
inspiring? If it is so,
Hmm.
what makes us say so? Then further deep. Okay, how are we measuring it? Then strategy. Is there a clear long-term plan? People, are the employees skilled? Is it engaged? Are they engaged? Resources, are resources getting wisely used? Processes. So is this a process driven organization or a person dependent organization?
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, customer results. Are customers satisfied and loyal? What
Hmm.
makes us say so? How are we measuring it? So, if you look at it, when we ask these questions, and these questions have come from business excellence model, we are forced to now apply our focus on various aspects of the business. Otherwise, we are likely to focus our business, our attention to one aspect,
Only
maybe
one.
sales.
True.
Okay, if it is a
Agree.
startup, the founder is likely to focus largely on the sales and the operations because that's where the money is coming from.
Yeah.
But this is little wider. So people results, are employees happy? Are they productive? Then we will
Hmm.
have to define what makes us say so. Okay, how are we measuring it? Then even little wider, it's up to us. Society result, are we
Hmm.
responsible corporate citizen? Then business results, are we achieving financial and non-financial goals? So
Non-financial also. Hmm.
non-financial also.
Okay.
Okay. So what is the business excellence model doing? It is
Hmm.
forcing the founder of an organization or I would say the owner of an organization to look at her or his business through multiple important aspects. And
Okay.
this is a very good thing because this makes the business sustainable. This makes
Hmm.
the business run on processes, for example. So, for example, now when we talk about leadership, when we talk about people, when we talk about customer results, when we talk about business results, okay, how is this coming from? So these play a very important role, and
Hmm.
slowly now the business becomes scalable because, say, for example, a McDonald today,
Okay.
everything is processed over there.
Everything.
For
Absolutely.
everything, they have an SOP. So people come and leave the organization, but the services to a customer is never affected. The person comes, he is trained on those SOPs or she is trained on those SOP,
True.
and then the customer or the experience which a customer gets is the same. So the excellence model is a very good framework to excel in business, not just one aspect of business, but multiple
Mm.
aspects of business. And also, it's a very good framework to scale up, because these
Okay.
are the 5, 6 things. If you do it, the business is on the path to scalability.
Agree with you.
Okay.
Yeah. Excellent. And
Yeah.
you
Surely.
have the framework,
Yes.
uh, business model excellence, and you have narrated very important things, leadership, customer, and the whole picture in mind.
Yes.
Now, if you were to implement in a company,
Yes.
people have to be on board.
Yes.
How does that happen? Because somebody has been working in that organization for a very long time. He
Yes.
knows more than anyone else. He thinks
Yes.
he knows all that there is to know.
Yes.
And then, therefore, adopting to a new framework, adopting to something new becomes a
Yes.
very big challenge for any organization. I'm
Yes.
sure you face. Tell us how you have been able to manage
Yes.
that.
Yes. 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 So I'll share this with an example itself. Okay, there was a company which I was associated with, and at a particular almost 20 years back, this happened. Okay,
Okay.
and this company, at that time incurred a 105 crore loss, which
Okay.
was a very big amount by that company's standards. So you can
Mm.
imagine the state of mind of its employees, of its stakeholders, all kinds of rumors floating around.
Yeah.
Okay, whether this company would be closed down, etc., etc.
Jobs will be lost or whatever. Yeah.
Jobs will be lost,
Mm.
so on and
True.
so forth. So this was the reality of that situation at that point in
Mm.
time. And
Mm.
that was also a time when they decided to embrace, there was a new CEO appointed, and the
Okay.
CEO, of course, was, very pro for, a model like this. And they implemented this business excellence model in that organization. So
Okay.
naturally, there were challenges. So the first challenge was because initially it's not very clear to the employees, especially, as to how this is going to benefit them.
Yeah.
So, a typical challenge which you or anyone else can expect is, am I supposed to do my job, or am I supposed to sit and write processes, for example? Because this also
Uh,
encourages you to write SOPs,
True.
okay, and which gets,
True.
evaluated. You have to identify the metrics by which, these process would get evaluated. So this was one big challenge. Okay.
Mm.
Then the second important challenge is in terms of people not getting a clearer picture, especially the old
Okay.
timers. Okay. That earlier
Yeah.
also we have done business, but there was nothing of this sort. Why now?
Is this now?
Yes, because this is little futuristic. So this was the
True.
second challenge which, companies had. So
Mm.
these are the two things which I can surely. Then the third important is also a little difficult, because this model encourages you to have benchmarks in excellence. So if you're, for example, if you are in sales position, so what is a benchmark against which you are comparing your role, for example? So
That's so true.
yes,
Oh,
so it
yes. Mm.
encourages you to have benchmarks, because
Mm.
this method or this process gets evaluated, and when the evaluator comes, they ask you, these questions against, what is the benchmark for this particular role. So if you're saying, for example, in L&D you're doing well, what makes you say you're doing well? Okay. And then are you benchmarking against certain standards? Which is
Correct.
that? Okay, which is that standard? So the role now, has to also get the person has to get involved
Vetted. Mm.
into all these things, all these measurement criteria
Yeah.
also. So surely there are challenges, and large part of it is a mindset challenge. So how
Yeah.
do
The biggest.
yes, the biggest. So how do we overcome them? So first is the leader in the organization should be very, very clear that this has to happen. Okay, this is a top-down driven approach. So one is that you have to do it. The message has to go clear that both are important. Not only the job that you're doing, also this is important. So that's the first challenge. In any case, you will have certain people who would buy into this initially. So you need to take them into your side. Okay, because they are the people who are willing to experiment, who are willing to take this up. Okay, and I would say majority would be fence sitters.
Yeah.
And there will be a few who would not like to, who would express their displeasure or would try to. So this happens everywhere.
Everywhere. Absolutely agree.
Okay. So one, one important takeaway is the leader of the organization, the person who has the authority, is he pro for it? If he is
Correct.
pro for it, more than 50% of the job is
Job is
done.
done.
Yes. Okay.
Agree.
So that's where it starts from. And then it'll have its, as I said, all these challenges which are there, which is always there. So this has
And
been
the fence sitters are either ways. It's like they can
yes,
drop on either side of the wall. What happens to
yes,
them? The CEO, the leader,
yes. When they
then
see the CEO supporting it, when they see some of the top leaders also supporting it, they jump sides.
they come.
So you have a critical mass in the organization. You begin from there, and then things go.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah,
but you, yeah,
conviction by the leaders is the most important part. I fully agree to your point.
absolutely. Yes, yes.
Without that, nothing can move,
Nothing
and they
can
should
do.
be convinced.
Yes, I
Yeah,
will
sure.
also add, for example, so you can be, for example, the audience who's going to watch this, maybe from a startup company or maybe from a mid-sized company, small company, or a large company.
Yeah.
Just in case you wish to implement this model, okay, you heard certain things due to the paucity of time, only so much has been said.
Yeah.
But this is a very good framework to have. Even the startup organizations can imbibe this particular framework. There are organizations which can support you to implement this organizations. There are consultants who can enable. You can have a word with them, a very informal word. If you do a simple Google search, you will get lots of them. So a nice way to begin, if you are a startup or a founder, or if you are working for an organization where this doesn't exist, is I would say become little curious about it, pick up the
About it.
phone,
Sure.
okay, and just talk what it is all about. So typically
True.
you'll get better picture. Maybe you will call that person over for a small presentation wherein they'll present to the
Absolutely.
leaders, and things can go on like this. So
True. I
it's a
agree.
very good framework, and most companies have done it like this.
And then they have succeeded also.
And they
It's
have
just like
succeeded, absolutely.
the success of any business, popular or successful business framework is the execution part. How
Yes,
the organizations, after having taken a point,
absolutely. Yes,
without that, nothing can move, and
nothing
they
can
should
do.
be convinced.
Yes, I
Yeah,
will
sure.
also add, for example, so you can be, for example, the audience who's going to watch this, maybe from a startup company or maybe from a mid-sized company, small company, or a large company.
Yeah.
Just in case you wish to implement this model, okay, you heard certain things due to the paucity of time, only so much has been said.
Yeah.
But this is a very good framework to have. Even the startup organizations can imbibe this particular framework. There are organizations which can support you to implement this organizations. There are consultants who can enable. You can have a word with them, a very informal word. If you do a simple Google search, you will get lots of them. So a nice way to begin, if you are a startup or a founder, or if you are working for an organization where this doesn't exist, is I would say become little curious about it, pick up the
About it.
phone,
Sure.
okay, and just talk what it is all about. So typically
True.
you'll get better picture. Maybe you will call that person over for a small presentation wherein they'll present to the
Absolutely.
leaders, and things can go on like this. So
True, I
it's a
agree.
very good framework, and most companies have done it like this.
And then they have succeeded also.
And they
It's
have
just like
succeeded, absolutely.
the success of any business, popular or successful business framework is the execution part. How
Yes,
the organizations, after having taken up that, are executing it. Hello.
Hitesh, it is
Thank you. Thank you very much, Pramod. Thank you so much. We have, I think there are quite a few areas that are left, and then I think
yes,
we'll have to
yes,
rush up. And I need to
surely.
get your opinion on
Yes,
the importance of listening by the leaders in today's time and age. The organizations are growing fast. Listening
yes.
is becoming less focused now. What does it lead to? What happens to organizations which are good at it, not good at it? Your views, Rajiv?
Absolutely. It's a forgotten skill, and it's a skill, unfortunately, easy to implement, but not seen implemented much. So I'll just say a line because we have to cover a few more topics and take the questions also. It's got multiple applications, no doubt about it, right from reducing stress to building camaraderie amongst the people. So how did we formally implement this as a process or as a system in the organization? I wish to share one small example about it.
Sure.
So I was working with a client, and this client was working in the area of, it was called as Great Place to Work. So it's a
Yeah.
survey which is conducted, and it's an employee engagement survey. And this particular client used to conduct this survey once in 4 years to check the employee engagement. To what extent is an employee engaged? In simple words, for the benefit of the audience, it means, okay, that's in
Love it.
simple, minimalistic terms. Okay, so there are a set of questions which have been asked in a survey. Those questions have been kind of, asked multiple times in multiple ways. So, and then you can get a fair idea about what is an employee engagement score of the organization. This employee engagement score is also viewed at the top in most organizations because it becomes a part of the KRA and so on and so forth. So I was asked to work in this particular area. So after 2 years, they wanted to check in terms of how much has the needle moved from last
Okay.
time to now, the midterm. And we did a survey and we arrived at certain results. So naturally, the question was, what can we do to enhance not only employee engagement? It's a score, no doubt about it, but the fact that actually people should feel it should have an impact on people.
Yeah.
So a very simplistic solution was put forward. To all the listeners of this webinar, I would suggest please try this. In case you are leading a team, it's worthwhile trying it. Once a month, I would suggest have a one-to-one with your team member. Now, what you do in that team meeting is, your job actually is to ask question and just listen. That's all. Don't interrupt the person who's sitting in front of you. Never interrupt. Let that person talk. It takes 15, maybe the first time when you try this, it may take 20, 25 minutes. Later on, believe me, the time will reduce. One of the questions you ask is to that person or to that team member of yours is, what's one thing you are proud of this month? What's one thing you are proud of this month to your team leader? See what he is saying. If you want, it's a very good thing if you can write down. I'm a great believer in writing, and that's what prompted me to write that book called The Journaling Gym.
General,
We have
yeah.
lost touch, putting pen on paper. It's so important. We are now used to keep.
I have a pen always.
So nice. Okay, I would strongly suggest, write down what the person is saying. What's the one thing you're proud about this month? Don't worry about the structure of the language. Okay, as long as the person can understand, it's good. We are not here to talk about, flowery English language. Speak to that person in Gujarati, speak to that person in Marathi, speak to that person in Hindi, whatever language you feel like. What are you proud about in this month? What aspect, what's one thing you're proud about in this month? Second, what's been frustrating you or slowing you down at workplace? Ask this question, see what the team leader has to say. Third, what support do you need from me or the team? Mind you, most organizational leaders would have never asked such questions to their team
Correct.
members. If you just do it, just do this, okay, they will see a very different you. They'll remember you for lifetime. These are the kind of things, simple but never done in the organization. So what support do you need from me or from the team? What have you learned this month about work, about client, about yourself? You feel free to add according to the
Correct.
situation in which you are. What have you learned? Ask that, because all these questions are pertaining to him.
Yeah.
So suddenly you come across to that person as a leader, as a manager, whatever position you're holding, as a person who's taking interest in that person plus developing that person. Okay, which never happens. So initially, as I said, it may take 30 minutes. Later on, the time will get reduced. Just do this. What have you learned this month about work, client, yourself? Is there an idea or improvement you want to try, big or small? Ask that person. How are you feeling these days about work, about life, about energy? Okay, I'm giving some pointers.
Critical questions. Wonderful.
Okay, if you want to take this as it is, over a period of time, you will modify,
You can
believe
hone,
me.
you can fine tune it.
You will
Yeah.
fine tune it. And I would say initially, even if it sounds little risky, there's no risk as such. Do ask this question as your boss, as your leader. Where do you think I must improve? Okay, if it's little scary at the beginning, don't worry. As the meeting takes place later on, as the meeting takes place, you will find that he or she will give you a lot of insights about yourself. So what are you doing? You're asking question. Your job is to ask question and listen.
Questions.
That's it.
True,
So
true,
this
true.
is how you are putting in place a listening habit in your role, in your organization. Simple.
Very nice. Excellent. I think you have spoken to the point and you explained it so well. I think this is one skill, if we develop, we can become very efficient, effective, and successful leaders. But at the same time, I want
Yes,
to
yes,
shift now and ask you about listening is so important.
yes,
Why the power of silence
yes.
is
Oh,
also
yes.
important for the leaders? Why? What do you
Ye-
talk about this? What do you
Yes, yes,
say
yes.
on power of silence and its impact?
Absolutely. See, it was one of the offsite which I was doing on strategy. This happened to be an offsite on strategy. So suddenly, this conversation that we were having in a workshop got a little out of hand, to be very, very honest. So one group,
Okay.
okay, the sales function started accusing the production function of their wrongdoings, and the production group started accusing the sales function of their wrongdoings. In many ways, I was at fault because I was not at that point in time, or not
Aware.
moderating the discussion properly.
Hmm.
So it went on like this. So I
Hmm.
naturally became nervous in that whole, when this whole thing was there. And there was a CEO of that company who was participating. He was just observing in there. Okay, and this back and forth was happening between the two sides. So then people started involving, then the question came as to what is your view about it. So naturally it was expected that the CEO intervene and say something. But I was shocked, and so were all the participants. He didn't utter a word. Not that he was disconnected from the discussion, he just chose to remain silent and observe the things as it is, how thing what was being what was being discussed over there. He just chose to
Hmm.
remain silent for a few moments. And this silence, after this, during this break of the silence, I would say, during when the silence was happening, one member from the production team got up and said, I think we could be missing a point here. I think we could be missing a point here. Why not discuss this little more freely? That was the word that he used, without
Oh,
anybody saying anything. And then the discussion got back on track. And then the CEO said, now that this discussion is back on track, is there anything you want me to talk about? So people again remained silent, but I think the people got
the
that
message.
absolutely. So this ability to remain silent, observe things, turned the
Hmm.
situation in this case. Second,
Yeah.
there is one more example that I would like to talk about. I was doing a workshop in a particular workshop, and this workshop was being held for the railway people. The
Okay.
railways have a zonal training center,
We'll have just 2 minutes to answer this question.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So, so we were talking about this behavior called listening. So one participant got agitated and he started accusing that, do you know how the system at our place works? You're talking of listening. It's corrupt from top to bottom, so on and so forth. So what do? I have never worked in his position, for example. So the least I could think about, that's a wonderful question that he has brought about. Would any team member like to share their views on this? So it threw it back to the team.
Yeah.
And then one of the team members said something which even I didn't know. He said, see, what he's saying is right. There's no doubt about it. There is corruption. But what sir is talking about right now also has got a use. For example, we have to handle a lot of complaints. All kind of people come and complain. At that time, at least allow that person to vent out the emotion. It makes a lot of sense. So I could get away with the power of silence. So I'm so sorry if I have spoken.
No, but this has been important. Explaining that is it makes me to understand better. And
Yes.
The time is just running out so fast that I couldn't even realize in this that 1 hour, nearly 1 hour is over. Thank you, Rajiv. There are quite a few things left. I wanted to talk about your book that you have written, Journalism, Jim.
Yes.
But I will hold myself back. But I'll open the floor. Thanking you, Rajiv. I'll open the floor. If any of the audience members have any question that Rajiv has spoken today about, or anything else related with leadership and HR, please raise your hand, unmute yourself, and throw the question. You can also put it on the chat box and I can read that out. You have both the options. We do not have much time to go. We close sharp at 5. We manage the time that way, but if there are any questions, please post
May
them
I
on
have
the
a quick
chat box.
question? Yeah, I have a quick
Yes, please
question
go
for
ahead.
Rajiv.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, and this is I have seen with our group as well as I'm board of 2 other companies. When you're scaling up, the biggest challenge that we face is gaps in communication because जब छोटा होता है तब communication अच्छा रहता है intra departmental. So as senior leaders, what and with all the WhatsApp, MS Teams, Excel sheets, and everything is in place, so to say the system, but it still collapses. So what would be a few key hints that you would give, quick tips, so to say?
It depends upon, first of all, is it departmental wise or is it from top to level or top to bottom? So if it is a departmental wise, it could be a good idea, for example, to, have a stand-in meeting, maybe 5 minutes, wherein all just stand up together, have a cup of tea together and just share. Okay, that's one. I found it very useful. Second time, it could be, if it is really very important, it could be good to schedule a formal meeting itself, if it suits. There's no hard and fast way of doing it. But if it suits, schedule a maybe, Monday morning or a Friday evening where just sharing. We just share what has happened in this department, what has happened in a particular department. People just share. This can also help. So informal meeting and formal meeting, both encouraging them, it massively helps. Of course, there are people who do it in variety of ways. I'm sure one of this you would also be doing. Go out for a dinner. The purpose is to talk to each other, not to have that, because people anyway have dinner. But the idea is to talk, take that barrier out and let people talk. So various methods can be deployed. Just check what suits for your organization.
I think the once a month meeting with team members was a fantastic idea. I think that we
try it out. Okay.
implementing.
And when you do it, sometimes you may find new perplex, or I would say some complexities emerging. No problem. Just work on it. It settles down eventually. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know we are running short of time, but can I have a quick question?
Yes, Rajendra. Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Mr. Rajiv, on the same point that we are now talking, shoot of that is, you said that have one-to-one meeting and then ask all the questions. What makes them proud? What makes them unsuccessful? And the third question that you said is, what is the support you expect out of me? What I believe is that could be a very double-edged sword in the sense that it could bring positive results as you expect it would.
Yes.
But sometimes, the problems which are related to this or sometimes not even related to this come up. And it almost, you're in a situation that you asked for trouble.
Yes. So I have seen it does happen. Okay. So at that point in time, I have seen sincerity helps. Now, in what ways? For example, look, this is not in my control as of now. So I will not promise you. Explaining this or making it clear to that person often helps. You may still find one or two people, I doubt very much, in fact. Okay, but telling them, look, I also, like you have your limitations, I also have my limitations. But out of these four things, I can surely assure you that one will be done. And even if he gets that feeling one is done, will be done, or let us assume nothing is being done. Okay, nothing. The fact that you are giving him an opportunity to speak, don't underestimate that also. How many bosses in his lifetime would have asked him this question? We can fairly guess. It would be very little, or the numbers would be very less. You are going and asking such 6 questions to him. He will
And
remember.
authenticity
Thank you.
matters.
I agree with you. Yes, I agree with you. This is what happens.
Yes.
But more often what I have found, and this again is my practical personal experience,
Yes.
people shoot questions which are not within your authority. Most of the time what happens, you are
Yes.
forced to tell back stating that this is not within my authority, this is not within my, I will talk to the concerned people and get back to you, which invariably never happens to the positive
Yes.
side.
Yes.
Very few questions come which you is within your vicinity and you are able to say, done. I like this
Yes.
point. I will mull over it and tomorrow I'll decide on this. And then
Yes.
probably tomorrow you go ahead and announce that we are changing this. That is the most ideal situation. Unfortunately, that is very remote, very less that doesn't happen. And
Okay.
what happens
Yes.
is more. So then what happens is you're having a list of questions and you are unnecessarily expected to go to E, B, A to seek that solution and B to seek that solution. And you feel, where did I get this trouble? Instead, I was happy running my department. Sorry to
This is what happens in most of the time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We have almost exceeded the time, closing time by 2 minutes. We don't want to do that generally, but if there are any questions, I'll close this meeting now. If you have any questions, we will take it by the side. But those who have come with a time frame in mind, we officially close this webinar now. But you can remain on chat, or if you want to send any questions for Rajiv to answer, send it to us and we'll ask Rajiv and post it back to you. Thank you very much for taking your time and attending our Masterminds webinar on scaling with intention. Thank you so much. We bring this knowledge sharing webinars every month. Join us then next time. Bye.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure
Thank you.
talking to each one of you. Thank you.